Still Can podcast. Tina and I are here, and today Anthony Andrews is back with us. We're going to dish about the last week, and wow, there's been a lot. It's like, I don't even know where to start, you guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's impossible to pick a starting point given all the information. I mean, there's so many players in all of this, and there's so many bombastic, pieces of info in there, whether it be Trump spending Thanksgiving 2017 with Epstein in South Florida, along with
They weren't friends.
Yeah,
they were not
Eva
friends.
Anderson, it's interesting. Some of the talking points you get from these trolls that are commenting online, and I'm getting a lot of it. You've seen some of my posts. I've had 7 million, impressions in the last several days just from just dropping all these little pieces of information. And, one, it's obviously they're paid. I mean, nobody's logically thinking the way that they're thinking now, trying to debunk this stuff. But the other is just the amount of information that's out there is just insane when it comes to just the depth that it goes into what Epstein was really up to. I mean, I'll start by saying, I tweeted this, but he was literally the world's money launderer for multiple nations, probably terrorist organizations as well that were being, funded through foreign dictators and whatnot, Russia, Israel, all that other stuff. And there's so much, and it ties all directly. And as I keep reading to the stuff that I've written, and as I keep reading, there's little nuggets that just keep tying in, Woody Allen, who we've kind of brought up in the past. Now he's really deep into this stuff. It's clear he was even close to Epstein as an advisor of sorts. Steve Bannon became friends with Epstein and has 15 hours worth of tapes that we haven't even heard anything,
Wow.
What? Okay, hold on. I want to ask one question about Steve Bannon. Can you describe in one sentence what you think he smells like?
The first thing that comes to mind is when I was a child, I had a great-grandfather who was a farmer who had dementia, near death, and he was living with my grandmother on a farm.
Very specific.
He just always smelled like urine, that old man pee smell. That's what I think Bannon.
We know that smell very well.
Yeah, I'd say the odds are good. So hypothetically, for entertainment purposes only, when Epstein stopped being the position he was in of this hypothetical organization, it didn't come to a screeching halt. So who do you suppose could be the new head of this, or the new power broker?
I have zero doubt. I mean, this is not even hypothetical as far as I'm concerned, and I'm willing to take whatever hit I need to because Discovery is always lit. I have zero doubt that it's Jared Kushner, just because of his connections and what we've seen him do over the years. Follow the money, too. I mean, Saudi Arabia gave him $2 billion in total. Now he's at $4 billion from Middle Eastern countries. That in itself, and it's an investment fund that he's in. That just literally is what Epstein was doing. Jared is real close to Mohammed bin Salman, who was in the White House yesterday, MBS.
I missed that.
He was in the White House yesterday. I saw something. I posted something briefly just saying, watch this space, watch what happens. But apparently MBS was at the White House, and we know within the documents that Epstein says back after the election in 2016, MBS sent him literally one of their fancy Saudi Arabian tents with fancy carpets and all. Epstein discusses that. So there's this web of connections that are direct. We know that Jared gave MBS classified information, which led to likely the death of Khashoggi. Yep.
Yeah.
It led to the grabbing of Saudi dissidents, and even remember that rich billionaire cousin that was put away for about a month, and he's put in one of the Ritzes or something like that down in Saudi Arabia way back when all this was happening, until they basically tortured and blackmailed him enough into him complying and doing what they were asking him doing. I forget the name, but he was literally part of the royal family, and they locked him up in a penthouse somewhere during all of this. So
lock me up in a penthouse.
I know,
lock
exactly.
me up.
And then threaten Dina with a good time.
Yeah, and then you have Jared's connection to the Netanyahus. I mean, it's a well-known fact that Bibi Netanyahu is very close to the Kushner family, and we don't need to go there. I think we've talked about it before, but Charles Kushner ain't no saint. If anything, he's very close to Donald Trump and what Trump was doing. Kushner. Even, it's even known that when Bibi Netanyahu would visit in the 90s, the United States, he'd stay at the Kushner's home in New Jersey and sleep in Jared's bedroom. Jared obviously wasn't there, hopefully, at the time. But he'd sleep in the bedroom. So that you've got this familial connection, this decades-long connection. I came across something yesterday, and I posted about it too, which is in 2013, Jared was celebrated as one of the up-and-coming young people. And somebody sent me a link today of pictures of that event, where Donald Trump was there. And I have an issue, Cory Booker was there. And I'm starting to have a little bit of questionable issue about Cory Booker because he's popped up in some unusual spaces for me when I've looked into things. For example, Sergio Gore, who's now the ambassador to India, who used to be the director of White House personnel.
With no background check.
Yeah, with no background check. Who was just the other day sworn in as ambassador to India. And I forget who, somebody posted about it. Somebody nefarious posted about it. But had posted pictures on his Instagram back in the early 2010s that had Cory Booker in them a couple different times. I'm sorry, there's no coincidences. But then I also saw Cory Booker was, along with a bunch of other celebrities, was also at this event that celebrating Jared in 2013 that Epstein was invited to. In the emails, Epstein was actually invited to this event. So I scoured the pictures real quick. There's about 2 pages of Getty pictures. There was nothing with Epstein. Trump was there. Melania was there. All these other people were there. So you have to look at this. To me, as far as I'm concerned, Epstein was heir apparent to everything. He was being literally groomed to do this. Look at what he did. And I said this, and I don't even know if we've talked about it. I said this back during the first administration. Epstein was the back channel Secretary of State, and Ivanka was the back channel VP, as far as I was concerned. If you remember their actions during that time, Ivanka would always sneak into the ends of meetings that Trump was having with heads of state, if you recall, and kind of interrupt those things. Then she'd just kind of hang around. And then we have pictures of her traveling the world with Trump, where she would actually sit in his place in some cases. Remember that time she kind of tried to there's a video of her interjecting herself into a conversation with people, and they kind of look at her like, who the heck are you? Why do you even think you're important? So you've got this whole thing of them building this relationship worldwide. To me, it's exactly what they knew they were going to do. Jared was going to take over the operation when it comes to money laundering of the material that was grabbed at any of his estates. We keep getting these pieces of information like emails and stuff, but there's literally thousands of pictures and thousands of videos that were grabbed at the estate, of various estates of Epstein, that nobody's seen. So wait until we start seeing that shit. Sorry.
Yeah, and Jared and Ivanka they've basically dropped out of sight this administration. Have you seen much of them?
I think they're a little more in sight than most people are paying attention. I go back to Super Bowl Sunday, where I posted that picture that I had screenshot of Mae Musk with Wendy Ding and Ivanka in South Florida. And it was a couple hours before Ivanka hopped on Air Force One with Daddy to fly to the Super Bowl. So she's been there. And if you look closely, they keep popping up here and there. They just aren't in the front. They aren't in front of the cameras all the time. They really are doing all this shadow stuff behind the scenes, as far as I'm concerned.
I just assumed that this time around, because socially they were shunned to some degree in a lot of circles, that they were just choosing to distance themselves. But maybe they're otherwise occupied.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I think is happening. I think they're otherwise occupied. I honestly think part of what they're doing is trying to create a dynasty of sorts from the Trump family. Ivanka, if you look at her Instagram page, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time about this because I just hate talking about these pieces of shit. But Ivanka, when you look at her Instagram page, it's just this disgusting picture of this perfect family and these perfect people who are, just so great at everything. And you're like, oh, Lord, we all know you're just shit at the bottom of the shit pot.
So, what do you think about the theory of like, I know I hate when people are like New World Order. I don't know. It just sounds very cliche. But when you think about like the deal, like transnational, and then the creation of the dynasty, like, or what were they comparing that party to that they had on, was it the Halloween party? What were they calling it?
Oh, it was like the Great Gatsby stuff, right? Wasn't it?
Yes. So that disgusting, decadent lifestyle while back like in the king and queen days, you know what I'm saying? And it almost seems like even though all these factions are fighting, they're trying to create something new.
I agree 100%. And I think the thing is, if you go back to the beginning of this, we'll call it a true psychological operation. I mean,
absolutely. Like, I am totally on board with that. Like, we are being fucking psy-opt to a whole new level that we didn't even know. And I think it's going to get worse, especially with energy technology and weaponry and like the noise, triggering people. I think we're in for a world of hurt if people don't start accepting that this shit's happening. But continue.
Well, yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about the MK Ultra stuff earlier in the week, but it all goes back. We've talked about projection, and I think we need to come up with a new word that more clearly describes it, because it's beyond projection. When you go back to all of the things you've seen and they've talked about and they've tried, it's almost as if they were projecting all of their plans in advance and projecting everything onto the Democrats.
Well, to get ahead of the news cycle, make it so unbelievable that when it comes out that they're doing it and we say that they're doing it, they're like, you guys are fucking crazy. You called us fucking crazy. Just like Pizzagate, all the shit. And
Well, and along the same lines, they'll believe that, they were doing it already, so that makes it okay for them to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's all the toddler mindset.
Yeah, it's just this mindset. But, when it comes to this new world order, I do believe, based on the information we have, yes, there's something going on at the highest levels that, they've been screaming and talking about, but pointing everywhere else except inward.
Absolutely.
But it's really them that have been doing it. I mean, I just read yesterday, you're talking about, the impacts it's having on everything. I just read yesterday that 600,000 people, mostly children, have already died in Africa because of the stop of USAID.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more than 500,000 people that have already died. That's a huge percentage of global population alone, and then look what they're doing in the United States. I mean, the healthcare stuff, millions of people are going to start dying quickly. You combine that with the effects of COVID. I mean, COVID itself, we could go off onto so many different
It's the new cigarettes, dude. It's the new cigarettes. And the government is lying to you. It's like asbestos. It's fucking killing you. But capitalism, baby. Get out there and fucking work. Raw dog that air. Get that fucking AIDS. Do it. Yeah.
Well, and you're talking about asbestos. I mean, it's there's so many stupid little details. I have a picture on my phone of Trump had removed restrictions on asbestos. I'm not sure if it was in his first term. And there's a picture on the line, and I have it of bags of asbestos in Russia, because Russia is a big producer of asbestos. And they've got Trump's picture stamped on the side of them.
Oh my God! Well,
I'll post it for you after this.
Well, that is like something very close to my heart, because my family has generationally owned an insulation business. So literally all of the men in my family, older men, have died of mesothelioma. And I'm telling you, it is a fucking terrible thing to watch. It is terrible, and there is no cure. Like, they have no working chemo, so it's a death sentence, and it looks completely terrible, whether you get the lung kind or the peritoneal kind. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but apparently Trump does. Okay.
Well, the other health emergency that's emerging that people still want to write off as a cold or whatever else going on, especially working in now the business I work in, seeing everybody buying their cold medicine and everything rather than their COVID tests and masks. It's,
Absolutely, right?
but COVID is, being more and more compared to HIV and the effects of
Yes.
HIV. I mean, it literally attacks the immune system, and they're saying,
T cells.
most people have had COVID 4 times at this point. And, in the pandemic that has never gone away, everybody's just looked away. And COVID is attacking the immune system. And the one thing that seems to be clear is whatever your conditions your body may have that may not come out until 10 or 15 years in a normal world,
It's
COVID
aging
is
you.
triggering the immune system in a way that now you're seeing a lot of these and you guys know better than me, but a lot of
Autoimmune,
these
any
conditions
sort
that are
of
happening,
predisposed conditions.
predisposed conditions that are happening to people that are in their 20s and 30s that shouldn't happen to them likely until they're in their 40s or 50s because of the effects of COVID.
I think a lot of that has to do with it's just a general inflammatory disease, and I think it'll be a long time before we know the breadth of it. Yeah.
Well, there are plenty of studies that Lisa loves when I send to her in her little mailbox. And
I think the one point, though, is the fact that we don't know, and we won't know for years in terms of the long-term effects of COVID, and especially on our children. I mean, children were not vaccinated early on, and, especially babies, and, they just continued to be exposed to all of this. And, we won't know for years the effects of all of this. And, going back to the original part of this conversation is the fact that there's this intent of
deregulation
and everything. That's what it comes down to. I mean, look at, when you tie in every action that they're doing, taking, food stamps away from people, taking, literal food out of people's mouths, and taking healthcare away, so that when these effects of all these things start to really kick in, people are going to die because they can't get healthcare. I'll give you a very specific example. Is my sister, her healthcare was going to change, and they had a meeting about it. She works for a school district in Illinois, and they had a meeting about it. And what it was going to change to was it was going to raise their premiums and everything else, but they had to hit they were going to be given these cards,
HSA cards.
That they could use, and it had up to a certain amount on it. And then once they hit that amount, then they had to pay. They also then had their copays that they had to reach a certain amount before everything else was covered. The copay was up to about $3,000 in total annually before everything else was covered. But the thing with these cards is you won't know until you go to the doctor whether or not they're going to accept that as payment for whatever
your
procedure
service
needs to happen at that moment. So then they would have to do it out of pocket, which, that would go towards their $3,000 payment. But let's say you go to the doctor and you think, okay, I've got this card, which you only get 2 of, and she has 2 children that are out of state that are still on their health care in different parts of the country nearby, and then her own family at home. So 2 cards isn't enough for them.
Right.
And then, so you would go to the doctor. Let's say they say, okay, this is going to cost $1,000, but that card won't work on this.
You just don't get it done.
You have to pay for it. Well, who has $1,000 lying around in the real world most of the time? Not a lot. So people then won't get it done, and then they'll just get worse and worse, and ultimately lead to what we know. Yes.
Yeah. It's in the richest nation in the world. And I was actually just reading a report of how much groceries are costing a family of 4. And I bet you can speak to this, Tony, but it said like $1,013 a month for a family of 4. A family of 4. I have a family of 5, and I'm telling you, I spend at least $250 a week.
Yeah, and that's right there, $1,000 easily.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't buy meat. Yeah. Because I have a cow. Yeah. Yep. It's insane.
Yeah, it is insane. But so, I think the thing, going back to what we were talking about originally, it's just there's this multifaceted operation run by transnational organized criminals in conjunction with foreign leaders who in some cases may appear to be good, who likely aren't. Um, and it's leading to this new world order of sorts where it's going to be rich versus poor. I mean, we talked about Peter Thiel's plans. He's clearly in the Epstein emails going back, at least a
Yeah,
decade.
dude.
Having meetings with Epstein, spending time with Epstein.
That's why he's so sweaty.
Yeah, oh God, he's so disgusting.
Why is he like that? Like, I'm sorry. Keep going.
You guys would know better than I do. You're in the medical.
No. Get that taken care of, sir. I know you have better health insurance than I do. Like, go get some Botox injections, but
So there's just this clear coordination between all of the richest people in the world that is to the detriment of everybody else, and there's nothing that's going to change that until we decide to change it.
So we last week had a recording with this guy named Kevin Annett, and he is from Canada and has basically come to the same conclusion that we have come to, through different avenues. And basically his thing is, okay, all of these terrible things are going on, and the justice systems that are in place are built by the same people that they're protecting. So, he's like, okay, but I know this information, so I have to do something about it, which is, again, where we're at. And so he has started building tribunal courts, right? And he was like, if we have to build parallel justice systems if there is no justice to get within the system that is built. And so that is the same thing that you're talking about. He's just kind of trying to do it, how he knows how. But he has taken his cases to the ICC before, like, hey, I have evidence that these satanic ritual abuse things are happening with these rich, huge, rich people, the most powerful people in the world. And they're like, yeah, we ain't touching that. So what do you do with that?
Well, it's the same thing with, you've got the Bohemian Grove. We've all heard of that.
Absolutely. Same thing.
And it's just there's the problem with it is in this world, this is not the same world that normal historical revolutions and wars occurred in. People do not realize we've been deep in war since 2016. And that's why they keep saying treason. It's not the same thing, because treason is when you're at war. That's like the biggest talking point when it comes to Trump's
Cold War,
Flynn's actions and everything else. Russia themselves has said openly that they've committed acts of war against the United States. But the United States, the powers in control, do not acknowledge that, therefore, because they know that they're the ones, allowing some of these things to happen, and they're in cahoots, and their behaviors would then be treasonous by definition, by lawful definition. Instead, there's this gray area of RICO, which everybody jumps to RICO after they've been caught. Oh, let me go backfile, having been a RICO, or not RICO,
co-conspirator,
or a conspirator, or a foreign agent, a foreign representative of a company who was it? Christy Nome, Qatar. Who was the one? Pam Bondi.
That was Bondi
in Qatar. We've got the Attorney General of the United States was a foreign agent for Qatar. Qatar, which, let's just talk about it. In that Epstein email that I posted yesterday or 2 days ago about Qatar buying planes, it was misinterpreted by some.
I forgot about that
because Epstein wanted to sell a certain plane to Qatar, and this email was about that specifically, and also him trying to convince Qatar that he's got even pilots, if they're concerned about this particular plane, blah, blah, blah. He has pilots that can help, that have flown, and the whole email talks about these various pilots that he knows that works for various companies or Boeing or anything else.
Did it have Abby Loop on there?
I'm sorry, Abby Loop?
Abby Loop. So that was, I did a deep dive on that. That was actually an Epstein, the Marcinkova girl. Remember Marcinkova?
Oh, yeah, Nadia Marcinkova. Yeah.
Yes. So she started a business off of there,
She's
with
a
Epstein.
pilot, right?
Yes. And so basically there's all these like creepy ass commercials and stuff that you can find on YouTube from like 15 years ago. And it's little girls dressed up in like pilot outfits. So basically it was like a human trafficking. You can get this plane with this pilot, and it was like these young girls essentially. But it was like thousands of dollars and, you could pick which one you wanted and stuff. So I'm wondering if that had something to do with.
I'm sure it does. I mean, there's no coincidences in this world, and we continue to see it over and over as information is put out there. But when you go back to this thing, that email specifically was the fact that Qatar was deciding to buy a different plane than what Epstein was talking about. But Epstein was also providing various levels of pilots as
pilots.
Yeah. And so, but Qatar, and this was in 2012, January 2012 is when the email was written. And in 2012, and I verified it through Google, the only airplanes that Qatar bought were these 747-8 airplanes. And that airplane is the airplane that we're now spending as Americans $1 billion on to retrofit for when Trump leaves office, and it's going to be given to him. And it was circumvented as a gift because it was a gift to the DOJ. So they're using the system, as you mentioned, the legal system, the justice system, to find ways to circumvent things for it to work for them. But the plane they bought regarding that email was the plane that they just gave to Trump as a gift for $400 million. It's going to cost us $1 billion to fix.
Yeah, well, and then I asked Grok about, I sometimes I just am like, okay, can you break down this thread? And it will just tell me everything that I fucking want to know. Like, it's like, okay, well, this is what this means. But yeah, it was basically, let me see if I can find it. Because I asked, could the Qatar plane that was given to Trump be the plane talked about in the emails that just leaked? And this is what it said. To confirm, further investigation into the email's full context, such as recipient details, exact aircraft registration, and official records of the 747-8's ownership would be needed. As of now, the evidence leads toward it being the same plane, but the link is not conclusive without additional documentation that I'm sure has all been destroyed. That was not from Grok. But the House Oversight Committee recent email list might provide more clarity. But so that would make sense.
Yeah, I have something similar from Grok. I'm pulling it up right now. Find it. Because I asked kind of the same question. So yes, the email from Jeffrey Epstein in January 2012 discusses facilitating a Boeing 747 deal involving Qatar, aligning with their Amari flight's delivery of a 747-8I that year. Qatar's donation of a luxury 747-8 jet to the U.S. in 2025 for Air Force One use matches this acquisition timeline. While Epstein involvement predates his fallout with Trump, the factual connection holds based on delivery records and recent documents released. And let's talk about that for a minute. Let's talk about the fact that MAGA loves to say Trump threw Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, and they've not been friends for years. And one of their big talking points right now is, well, Epstein is talking shit in these emails about Trump because they're not friends anymore. No, the emails, Epstein's just clear about what he knows Trump is. I mean, Epstein just says Trump is a piece of shit. Everybody knows Trump is a bad person, but he's still friends with that Trump.
Because he's also the same thing.
Yeah. And when you've got Epstein, of all people, I can't think of a single person except maybe Idi Amin or Genghis Khan or Hitler.
Right.
When you've got those people saying Trump is worse than them,
it's pretty bad.
It means something.
Well, and it just goes to, again, like we had the funny emails surface about Bubba, okay, and we know that these files, like at first when you heard about them, you're like, okay, there's pedophilia in there. That's disgusting. Like, but as time went on and the amount of effort that they don't put effort into much. They are putting some effort into keeping these undercover. And so, I mean, that just is a testament to how terrible, like, and the more that I learn about like the ritualistic abuse to create the mind control and the science behind that and all that stuff, like there's some really, really, really bad things in those files, like worse than we can ever imagine.
Well, and that's and I agree 100%. You know, to get into the MK Ultra stuff, we don't want to become conspiracy theorists, but there's some legitimate,
it's real
evidence that talks about exactly what was happening. How they dropped chemicals over U.S. cities without telling them. They did certain things. I mean, they destroyed the majority of the files because they didn't want anybody to know about the stuff.
Did you realize that a lot of those experiments were happening in Nazi Germany? And then when we won World War II and invited all of those Nazis over so we could use their science and Operation Paperclip or whatever, well, we brought all of those more files over and essentially continued them because they knew that was the future of warfare, was the psychological component. And to be able to take over a society or win anything, you mind control would be the way to do it.
Well, I feel like I didn't watch Pee Wee Herman that much, but he had word of the day, right? And whenever somebody said word of the day, he would do all.
Yeah.
Everybody would go crazy on Pee Wee Herman's show. Well, I think you just did one of those moments because the reality is it did continue. I mean, we brought all these Nazi scientists over. We gave them immunity from all their crimes that they did. And they were put into the highest institutions of science to continue what they were doing and also develop more stuff. And we're at
money, unlimited money, your tax money.
Exactly. And one of the, again, going back to why did hammers cost $40,000 back in the 80s when it was discovered about that? Why did on 9/10/2011 or 2001 Donald Rumsfeld report that we were missing $2.3 trillion from a U.S. military audit? Because the Defense Department never passes an audit, and there's always trillions of dollars of missing. And that goes into all of these secret programs that we're talking about. That's how they pay for them. Can you imagine what's happening now?
Well, they label them as national security projects, right? And so then you can't give information about them because they're national security, when in reality the population is literally the test subjects without giving consent.
And there were companies that were doing these things for the CIA that didn't know that they were doing these things for the CIA. I mean, I just read about that the other day, too. I mean, it's so invested in the veins of everything in our nation. And, now the wolves run the hen house.
Yeah. I mean, and the positive that I can come about this is like, okay, obviously, all of these things in some form or fashion have been going on for a very long time. And as painful and terrible as it is, like, we have just been ignoring it. People have been coming forward about the abuses that are happening to them for literally years, and we do not treat whistleblowers kindly. And the things that they are saying that have happened to them are so outlandish, and that's on purpose, because if you make a claim about something, people are like, you're a conspiracy theorist. So they just don't come forward, so how many people are suffering and how many people don't know they're suffering? I guarantee we all have a touch of it.
Yeah. Well, let me give you a specific example. I think I mentioned it to you before. So I had a woman follow me the last couple of months. If not that.
I remember
that one that ran for governor in California and all of this. And she was just sending me tons of stuff in DM, and she was commenting on my stuff and doing all this. I recently blocked her finally, because one thing that I do, and you guys know this, is I vet people. And I also pay attention to what they're doing in real life on other social media platforms. And one of the things she continually does on her Facebook page is repost all of her support for Donald Trump. And I even asked her about that before I blocked her recently. I said, I just don't understand. You keep wanting to do this, and you say you're a whistleblower, and all of the stuff that she was sending me it just did not jive. It just wasn't making sense, and it wasn't enough for me to dig into to try to make it make sense. Because everything she was trying to do was say that the Russian hoax really started with her and her whistleblowing and all this. But all of this stuff, I mean, there's some parts of it that could be somewhat related to all of this stuff, but I felt like she was just trying to
push you off of the trail.
A completely different direction. I kept listening to her, and I'd ask her a question here or there. I'd even repost something. But ultimately, when I started asking her questions about, okay, I don't understand this. Why are you still on your Facebook account? And I showed her screenshots. I said, I don't understand why you're still, reposting your support for Trump from 5 years ago, or your support for various people from so many years ago. On her Instagram account, she showed something where she was at an event in California that was celebrating, I think, it might have been Kristi Noem it was celebrating, or one of those
she's so nasty.
bad people. And I'm like, here you are, you're saying you're a whistleblower, you know where I stand, and you're feeding me all this information that just doesn't make any sense. And she has some legitimate, she keeps talking about how she's homeless and she lives in this, but then she tells me about all these billionaires that she dated in California over all this time, very high profile names. And I honestly don't necessarily doubt that did happen based off the circles that she runs in. But now she says she's homeless and has no money. And, I was getting these Alison Guerrero vibes. And I was like, yeah, enough is enough.
Yeah,
I cut her off, and I just blocked her. I think there's a story there, but I sure as fuck, excuse my language, I sure as heck do not have time to dig into something that I think was another operation,
could be
another targeting, trying to push me off the trail. So I just
absolutely.
So there's just so much out there, and so many people trying to do bad things.
Well, and you can tell by the way that you get shadow banned online, and how anybody pushing any sort of factual explanations about what's going on, but you still sneak through. You know what I'm saying? And so they see you as a threat for sure.
Well, yeah, and that, an example of that is, a lot of the stuff I've written, back before I was banned and even shadow banned, I would easily get 1-2 million views on some of my posts because it's very legitimate. Now I'm finally hitting, 100,000, 150,000 again, even with the shadow bans. And I had one, which was mistakenly I had come across, and I had read through it, but I didn't realize it wasn't the actual Trump divorce papers with Ivana, but it was even better, which it was the documents talking about them fighting the why
abuse.
They wanted them to be sealed, which means they are still sealed. So the question should be, why haven't we seen the Ivana Trump and Donald Trump of divorce papers?
I bet we were about to see them, and then she fell down those fucking stairs when her NDA was up.
But the funny thing is all of this, the documents that I did post actually talks about and confirms her rape story, and how Trump told her he wouldn't get it. She would not get any money in the divorce unless she retracted it. And she didn't even necessarily retract it. She just basically said, well, I didn't mean it in a rapey way. I meant it in a he abused me way, but not really a rapey way. That was her way of getting out of it, to be able to get her nice settlement once they divorced. So it was just funny. So that has now hit 1.9 million views in the last several days. So we are breaking through, and, we just got to keep fighting the system and find ways around it.
Yeah, well, flooding the zone just like them. Yeah. Ooh, these some nasty people out here. So what do you think that they're going to have the vote next week? Or what do you think we're going to go to war so we can't vote on it, or what's up?
Yeah, they're going to do everything they can to obfuscate it. And I keep saying there's going to be legitimate stuff in those files, but
I don't trust them at this point.
Oh, no, absolutely not. Look at, even in the ones that were released, there's a lot of redacted names. But the thing is this time, they did not redact names with black in these emails. They just eliminated them. So they're blank space. So people don't even know that there's redactions in a lot of these emails because it's just blank space.
Well, you know when Pam Bondi was like, I'm gonna have 1,000 FBI people go over this shit. That means 1,000 people have had their eyes on the disgusting, and I know that there has to be one in there.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think the other thing is look at the people that are talked about and see who they're connected to. I mean, one of the people that Epstein had quite a bit of contact with over the years was a lawyer connected to Jared Kushner. And we also know that Trump never uses his own phone, and they say he doesn't email and he doesn't text. So, even in the documents indictment, one of the employees said specifically, "Oh, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you right away. Trump was using my phone." I mean, it's all clear. And then when you look at all these communications going on in these emails, there's one specific email, or no, Marjorie Green text from the other day when she posted those texts from Trump. Remember one of them where it was in caps talking about the Epstein hoax was not actually from Trump. It was from somebody else, a woman's phone. But we know for a fact what lady is going to respond to Marjorie Taylor Greene in all caps saying it's a hoax.
Right.
The only lady I know is Lady Trump, Donald Trump.
Donicka Lewinsky. Okay, so I want to talk about Jared Kushner for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he is not... Okay, so usually these guys, I'm like, creepy. He does not ooze that, which I believe... I mean, I'm sure he does some nasty shit. He has to. I'm sure he was indoctrinated with nasty shit his whole life. Like, I'm sure that's what molded him into being perfect for the situation he's in.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like he's probably not a serial rapist. I could be wrong, or pedophile, but I think that makes him more dangerous.
I agree.
Because the best drug dealer does not sample their drugs. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think,
and that's scarier to me.
Well, I think the bigger thing we haven't really explored is their loyalties to being straight males.
I want you to be able to go do Bubba. If Bubba wants you over there, like, I want that for you, babe. But quit telling me that I can't, stop it.
I don't care if you're gay, and I don't care if you do crazy things in the bedroom. What I do care about is you're out talking about the things everybody else is doing in the bedroom and pretending they're all bad things and wanting to condemn them for doing so when you're doing the same thing behind closed doors. And it's clear most of them are doing much, much worse things than any of us would have done.
They can even say what they want, but they can't legislate it. The line gets drawn at legislation.
Yep. I mean, Lindsey Graham. I mean, there's so many examples. Donald Trump, and Bubba Trump Shrimp Company.
Yeah, shrimp soup.
Oh God. Public accusations, founded or not, is I suppose to be determined, but that involve, Mike Johnson.
Yes.
I mean, Grindr, that is a fact. Grindr crashes every single time that those fuckers have a conference. Like, and I want that for you. Go get that, babe. But don't spend the whole conference talking about how you're the most Jesus. Like, shut the fuck up. I hate it.
It's just hypocrisy. And to have them want to legislate that is just, it's absurd.
I don't even call it hypocrisy anymore. I call it weaponization.
Yes.
I mean, they weaponized the values of Americans and preyed upon their faith, preyed upon their biases, preyed upon anything that divides us.
Right.
I mean,
Absolutely.
That's been the ultimate goal from the beginning.
Right.
And it's pure preying upon. And it's so, I keep thinking when I'm online, I think, okay, Twitter is not real life. And, we have all these crazy trolls coming after us. And it's hard to determine when I get a comment from somebody whether or not they're a real person or whether or not they're a troll supporting Trump. And I always think, well, they're probably a bot or a troll until I go out into the real world and I see people walking around with MAGA hats on. I mean, I appreciate it. Thanks for telling us all you're an idiot in public.
Yeah,
All
like
right.
I'm
At least
not
it's out
sending my
there.
kid to your home. Yeah,
Yeah.
we won't sell Girl Scout cookies over there. Maybe that's all I need to do to get solicitors to stop. I don't know.
So it's beyond hypocrisy because it's something they know they're doing. It's not even
It's the weaponization. It's the
it's a weaponization.
psychological.
Yes, everything they're doing is all part of the weapons that have been used against the country. You know, I said before, terms and conditions are the end of us because nobody paid attention to any of them.
Yeah, I scrolled and checked the box. Take my cookies and here's my data.
Exactly. So, and you know, if anyone that thinks they don't have everything they need on each and every one of us is willfully ignorant at this point. I mean, you know, they talk about not wanting a chip in them, but happily carry that phone on them every day.
With a watch and connected. Track me, baby. Track me, daddy.
Yeah, track me all you want. Whatever I have to hide, I really don't give a shit if it comes out in public.
Well, me and my FBI agent, like, he thinks I'm funny, so we're good. Well, hey, I'm having a chicken emergency outside, apparently. So I'm going to go do that and then go to my presentation on Christian nationalism. I'll send you a video of it because it's a really good speaker. So hopefully we can, again, that's just like what you're doing online, meeting people where they're at, providing information over and over and over, and eventually the truth is going to come out.
Yes.
And it took them so long to create this web that they're doing. It's going to take a very long time to find out, and we never will find out all of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, some years from now, they'll still be dropping bits that they're like, oh my God, it makes so much sense now.
Yeah.
We'll see a picture of Bubba the horse. Okay, I'm done. Okay. All right. Ghislaine's show horse. Okay.
Oh my God.
All right, guys, I'm going to go, but have a good day at work. Lisa, maybe I'll see you later.
All right.
Okay,
have a
do you
great
want to
day.
do the outro? Sorry.
Yeah. So once again, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like and follow and visit us on TikTok and website and all the places. And thanks again, Anthony. We appreciate you. It's always good to talk.